What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squid, back in another video. Today, let's take a look at Sky Striker. I know that this deck got a huge boost in the ban list. We got 3 multi-roles, 2 engage, and now that it's competitive again, you guys have to know these tips and tricks in order to play the deck. I know it's been some time since it's been prevalent in the metagame, so maybe a lot of these things kind of flew under the radar, but we also have some new tips and tricks for you today. So without further ado, we're just going to dive in, and you guys definitely need to know these in order to maximize your chances of winning with the deck. First and foremost, let's talk about multi-role and playing around DROLL and Lockbird. So as we all know, multi-role is a very powerful card that allows you to target one other card you control, send that card to the graveyard, then your opponent cannot activate any cards or effects in response to your spell card activations for the rest of the turn. And how this works specifically with DROLL and Lockbird is DROLL and Lockbird happens to be a quick effect, okay? It's not actually a trigger effect. That's one thing that a lot of people get wrong. This is an oddly worded card that was an old printing, and it happens to be a quick effect that they can use when your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except by drawing, okay? So, what that means in this case is if we fire off the effect of multi-role, let's say I go ahead and use the effect of multi-role, and then we have a card that searches like engage. What we can actually do is activate the engage, so they can't respond to the engage, so that's not getting ashed. And then we can actually add a copy of any quick play Sky Striker spell card from our deck to their hand. So in this case, let's add Hornet Drones. And immediately on the resolution, okay, assuming we don't draw a card, engage over the graveyard, what we can do is turn player, because you get turn player priority to activate any quick effects before your opponent can. We can actually activate any copy of a quick play spell card in our hand. In this case, let's go ahead and activate drones, summon a token. Now, this would be the proper spot for them to respond with DROLL and Lockbird here, because this is the timing where we added a card from our deck to the hand. However, multi-role prevents our opponent from responding to our spell cards, so that means they're unable to respond with the DROLL and Lockbird at this moment in time, and then we're able to resolve the effect of Hornet Drone, so the timing window passes for them to activate the DROLL and Lockbird, because it has to be activated specifically when we add a card from our main deck to our hand, and that was the specific timing that just passed now, in the same timing where we activated the Hornet Drones, essentially blocking them from responding. So that's a really cool thing you can do. You can do that with any of your quick play spell cards. It doesn't have to be specifically Sky Striker cards. You could have something like a Cosmic Cyclone even, and it would still do the same. Cosmic Cyclone, Econ, MST, anything along those lines. Upon adding a card, you can use turn player priority to activate that card, and your opponent cannot respond with any card effects, including DROLL and Lockbird. Now, one thing to note is that in real life situation, you have to be very clear about your communication. So I would be very, very clear and have that in mind that we already want a player on DROLL before our opponent gets a chance to activate the DROLL and Lockbird. So what I would probably do in real life would be like engage, okay, I'm gonna add, and then just as I add the card to my hand, I'm going to be like, okay, immediately on the resolution, I'm going to activate a card before you can do anything. And it's important that you vocalize that in a real life setting, because if you hesitate, let's say you add like a Widow Anchor and then you totally forget to tell your opponent and they drop a DROLL and Lockbird, well, that's on you, because you didn't communicate clearly that you were going to go activate a card. If you're being like, wait, before you activate DROLL, I want to activate something, it's kind of late in that situation. Sure, you can call a judge, but it's going to get really messy, because your opponent could argue that you're fishing for information because you did not declare that you wanted to use something. You did not communicate that accurately right before you gave your opponent a chance to respond. So just be very clear and concise when you're resolving the engage. Maybe even before you search the card, be like, okay, I'm going to add a card, and then before you do anything, I'm going to probably activate something. I'm going to think before you activate something, okay? So that way you're clear to your opponent. But yeah, again, this is how you guys can play around DROLL with a quick play spell card upon the immediately adding a card from your deck to your hand. So yeah, just something to keep track of. Okay, so here's the thing that you guys may not know, because Linkage is a relatively new card, but this card has a lot of applications. It's a quick play spell card that allows you to send another card you control to the graveyard, and then if you do, special summon one Sky Striker Ace Link monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. Now, when you have 2 spell cards in your graveyard, you can actually do a really cool thing with Linkage. So say, for example, we have Engage and we want to activate that. What you can actually do here is chain the effect of Linkage, and because chains resolve backwards, what Linkage would do is send one other card you control. So cards are always on the field until the chain resolves, right? Which means Engage is on the field at this point in time, which is a legal target for us to send to the graveyard. And then from there, we're able to special summon one of our Sky Striker links, and now Chain Link 1 will resolve for Engage, so we're able to search a copy of a Sky Striker card, And then because we have 3 spell cards in the graveyard on the resolution of Engage, where it checks the spell cards in your graveyard, we can actually draw 1 card. This will also work for any of the other spell cards. You can use things like Afterburners or even Widow Anchor. You can chain the effect of Linkage, which would allow you to steal the monster on resolution because it puts 3 spells into your graveyard. So that's a really cool thing to note. And it also works because you can chain a plethora of other effects, right? Like, for example, I wanted to talk about this card, which is kind of funny. It's Heat Wave. So at the start of our main phase 1, what it does is neither player can no more special summon monsters until your next draw phase. However, this is the effect that works on resolution. So upon activation, it actually doesn't apply that effect. So we can actually chain the effect of Linkage here because Heat Wave has not resolved. Send that, special summon a copy of Shizuku, for example, and then Heat Wave will resolve. So our opponent cannot special or normal any effect monsters on their next turn, but we have Shizuku already on the board. So that's just something that's kind of cool for you guys to note with Linkage. There are a lot of good applications with Linkage, so definitely keep note of that. Okay, so another cool thing about Linkage is that it's actually a quick play spell card that can be used in any phase in the duel. So that means that you can play around things like Effect Veiler that only activate during certain phases of the game. So in this case, we can actually use Linkage, for example, during our draw phase. If we want to play around Effect Veiler, we can send our set card and then summon back a copy of Sky Striker Ace Kagari, and then from there we can actually add back and engage from our graveyard. So it beats Effect Veiler, for example. It beats a lot of different cards that would activate in certain phases. Similarly, you could also use it in the end phase. For example, if you wanted to summon like a Shiz instead to be able to beat Veiler in that case, and then in the end phase you'd be able to search and they would not be able to Veiler. So it's just really cool applications. You can also use it in the battle phase. Obviously, it's not once per turn, so you can play around Veiler that way. You can put a lot of damage on board as well. You are actually able to use it even when you have a monster in your extra monster zone. What would happen is it would just be sent to the graveyard immediately by game mechanics when you resolve the effect of Linkage after you send another card. So just really cool thing to keep note of for Linkage. It's a really unique card. Okay, so this next example you guys probably already know because it's quite prevalent in the Sky Striker mirror matches, but when your opponent has 3 or more spells in the graveyard and they go effective Widow Anchor, target your Sky Striker Link to try and take and steal it. The thing with Widow Anchor is it has to negate the monster's effects, then steal it, so they have to do A then B. If they're unable to negate your monster's effect, they cannot take it. So what does that mean? Well, if you have your own Widow Anchor, what you can actually do is chain and target your own Sky Striker Link, which makes it unaffected because of the fact that your monster's effect is already negated. So because they cannot negate with their Widow Anchor, they're unable to take your monster. And this also works similarly with other cards that can target your own monsters, like Forbidden Chalice, to negate the effect. It's the same ruling under Skill Drain. You're not allowed to effect Veiler or imperm a monster. Same type of deal. You cannot negate an already negated monster's effects. And because Widow Anchor has to do A then B, they would not be able to take. So it's just something to consider. Similarly, if your opponent in the mirror match plays like Harpy's Feather Duster, it might be wise to go ahead and chain your Widow Anchor preemptively, just so they're not open to that possible line where they try and steal it later on with their Widow Anchor at a later point in time. So yeah, that's just something cool to note. Alright, so let's talk about something with multi-roll. So this is only relevant when multi-roll happens to be at more than 1 copy, which it currently is at 3 for some odd reason. But the second effect of multi-roll, which allows you once per turn during the end phase, you can set Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spell cards you activated this turn, while this card was face up on their field, is actually not once per turn. So oddly enough, you can actually play around cards like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, Cosmic Cyclone, MST, Twin Twisters, so on and so forth. Anything that would threaten to pop your multi-roll in your end phase so you cannot get the effect to set back cards, you can actually play around that by activating a second copy. So both of these will start counting when you start activating spells during your main phase or whenever you had this up on the field. And then during your end phase, you can activate one. If it gets Ghost Ogre, you can actually activate the second copy to try and set the same number of spells. So it's just something to keep track of. And the nice thing about multi-roll is actually it counts itself as a spell card as well. So the first copy of multi-roll will actually count the second copy of multi-roll that you activate as an activation of a Sky Striker spell, so you can set additional copy of a card from your graveyard. That's just one thing to keep track of. The other thing about multi-roll that you guys should know is that the first effect, once per turn, you can target one of the cards you control, send that card to the graveyard. Also, your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to your spell card activations for the rest of the turn. So that's any spell. But it's cool. If you have RAYE, what you can actually do is chain link 1, multi-roll, target the RAYE, chain link 2, RAYE's effect, to special summon one of your link monsters, and then you actually gain the effect. Even if the target is gone from the field, it works exactly like Area 0. Multirole will still apply the effect where your opponent cannot respond to your spell card activation. So it's really, really nice. And obviously, you guys already know the interaction with Area 0, where you normal summon Ray, you go effective Area 0, target Ray, and then effective Ray, chaining 2 to special summon a link, and then you still would get the excavation effect of the Area 0. That's the same thing with Multirole. A lot of people don't actually know this, but it's good to know. And another thing is you can actually do the exact same thing with Linkage as well. So if you have a copy of Linkage on your field and you have like a face down card, what you can actually do is with Area 0 specifically, you can target one of your face down cards, and then you can chain the effect of Linkage, and then you can on resolution send that same card, summon one of your links, and then you will get the effect of Area 0 as well. So that's really, really cool. And obviously you can do the exact same thing with Multirole as well, because it also targets a card on the field. So yeah, that's just something you should consider. The other really cool thing about the Area 0 as well as the Multirole is the fact that we can actually use it as removal as well. So in this instance, we're going to have a Widow Anchor. It could be something like a Change of Heart as well. And we're going to go ahead and steal our opponent's monster. So now we take control of it. Let's say we have no way to actually link it off or to get rid of it traditionally. So the other ways that you can actually get rid of it is either using Area 0 to target that monster to try and excavate a Sky Striker card and send it to the graveyard, or you can just use Multirole to roll it off to get that effect where your opponent cannot respond and then also send it to the graveyard. And the nice thing about Multirole at 3 is you can also use it to get rid of your own floodgates as well. Let's say we have a There Can Be Only one that we want to get rid of, so we can proceed to link off into our other Sky Striker cards, which are all machine link monsters. We can just use the effect of Multirole to send that graveyard. We can also use the same thing with Area 0. So just remember, guys, like Multirole and Area 0 are really, really crucial for you to get rid of your opponent's monsters as well. For you to get rid of your own monsters, sometimes you might have like a Bestial or something you can't get rid of in your main monster zone. Multirole and Area 0 are very, very nice for using that to get rid of monsters on your main monster zone. Alrighty, let's talk about playing around Effect Failure. This is a popular hand trap that can only be used during the main phase, so there are a plethora of ways to play around it in Sky Striker, especially given the fact that we have a lot of quick play spell cards, and Sky Striker Ace Ray happens to be a quick effect. So in this situation, if it's turn 1 and we normal summon a Ray, what we can actually do is proceed to the end phase and then use the effect of Ray to tag out into something like Shizuku, which prevents them from Veilering because we're in the end phase. If they wanted to Veiler on the Ray, we could just punish them by chaining the effect of Ray in our main phase because it's a quick effect and then going to the Shizuku anyways. So that's just one thing to keep track of. The other nice thing about using Ray's effect to tag out in the end phase is that the monster that we summon actually cannot be resurrected by a card effect like Monster Reborn or Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon in the mirror match because of the fact that we are actually special summoning it from our extra deck and not considered an actual successful link summon. So that means that it cannot be revived by traditional means unless it was successfully link summoned. This was mostly relevant when Kagari was at 1 originally in the ban list. However, now that it's at 3, it's not as relevant, but it's just an additional benefit for you guys to note there that you can make use of while playing around Effect Failure in the same aspect. We can also play around Effect Veiler in the battle phase if we want to resolve a Kagari, and how we can do that is actually in our main phase. If our opponent controls a 1500 attack or higher monster, what we can do is actually link off into something like Hayate. They can choose to Veiler the Hayate, which is fine. We're still going to be able to get our Kagari anyways, which allows us to add back a powerful spell card from our graveyard like Engage. So if they don't choose to Veiler here, what we can do is go into battle phase, swing for 700 damage. Effective Hayate will trigger, allowing us to send a copy of a Sky Striker's card. In this case, why don't we go ahead and send Engage because it's one of the strongest cards. Or I guess they're already in the graveyard, so never mind. So pretend that we sent an Engage. What we're going to actually do here is destroy the Hayate, and then the effect of Ray will trigger, which allows us to bring it back because one of our Sky Striker links was destroyed by battle by our opponent's card. And then here we can use a quick effect of Ray in the battle phase to bring back Kagari, which activates still in the battle phase, so our opponent cannot Effect Veiler, and then we can add back the Engage successfully. And in the same time, we can possibly crash over the monster if we have enough spell cards in our grave that puts our Kagari a little higher attack. So that's just another cool thing to keep track of there. Just odd ways to play around Effect Veiler because it could be a card that's seeing play, and it just makes the difference between you actually adding an Engage to your hand or you potentially losing the duel because you don't see that Engage, which allows you to search a card and get an additional plus off the draw, right? So just little things to keep track of here. Having a good deep understanding about how turn player priority works is really crucial when playing the deck, as well as playing against Sky Striker. So in this situation, we have a copy of Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer for whatever reason, and our opponent has a Sky Striker link with the RAYE and Graveyard. So if we go battle phase, attack, and then our opponent's monster dies by battle, and then let's say they're using the effect of RAYE to bring itself back, what happens next is in this window here in the closed game state, actually the turn player again gets to respawn first, or use any quick effects that they choose to. So in this example, you can take turn player priority to use the effect of DPE and then to try and pop something. And in this case, they're not able to really effectively chain RAYE. They could go ahead and chain RAYE, but they've already used the effect of RAYE from the graveyard to bring it back. So when that chain will resolve, then DPE would pop itself or any other card plus whatever they summon out. And because Kagari or whatever they summon is not actually in the correct zone, when it was summoned, it's not able to actually trigger. So it's basically a clean way for you to get rid of RAYE, because they're kind of forced to either go into a link, which does nothing for them, or they don't go into link and then the RAYE would get popped itself. So just beware about RAYE's effect if you're a turn player. If you have any way to pop, especially a non-targeting destruction effect like DPE, this is one way you can easily get rid of your opponent's RAYE without having it coming back to annoy you. So yeah, just really cool interaction there. And another cool interaction actually would happen to be with ROZE. So in this case, if we had a Sky Striker link and our opponent had another Sky Striker link, let's say in this example, they happen to be tied. So I guess I'll use a 1500 Hayate. So let's say they have a tied attack and I go and attack and both of our links die. So the turn player, again, your trigger effects will happen first. So in this case, we actually have ROZE in the graveyard. So we can actually use ROZE as well as RAYE, but let's just use ROZE in this case because our opponent's extra deck monster in the extra monster zone actually left. So our opponent's going to chain their effect of RAYE. And then what happens here is chain link to RAYE, right? So chains resolve backwards. Our opponent's RAYE will summon, and then our ROZE is going to summon out, and then our ROZE, because it's not one effect, it's all one effect, it doesn't target. So it says you can special summon this card, then you can negate the effects of one face-up monster your opponent controls. We can actually instantly negate that RAYE, so it can no longer use the effect of tag itself out, because ROZE's effect is all one effect. It special summons itself, and then it negates the effect that our opponent controls. So in this case, the RAYE that just came back on the exact same chain. So there's no way for them to circumvent that with RAYE's effect by tagging it out. So this is really useful because now we can just get rid of the RAYE really easily. They can try and tag out, but it's going to be still negated. So we can just deal with that really easily with ROZE in that situation. So just really important to get ROZE in the graveyard. Just bear in mind that Hayate's effect can also work even if Hayate is destroyed. You can use the effect to send a ROZE, and then on that same chain you can actually still bring back that ROZE that you sent off of Hayate if you happen to destroy an enemy monster in the extra monster zone by battle. So just remember, ROZE is really crucial in the mirror match for things like this, just to get rid of RAYE. And then the last little example I want to show you guys, I'm sure you guys already know this play, but it's good to know anyways. So with Jamming Waves, when you only have 2 spells in your graveyard, what you can actually do is target one of your own face down cards and then pop it, and then that would put 3 in your graveyard, so then you're able to destroy one of your opponent's monsters on the resolution. Similarly, you could also do something cool with Jamming Waves, or Afterburners rather, where you pop your opponent's monster, and then if you have 3 spell cards in your graveyard, you can just pop your own Area 0 and then use the effect to special summon out a RAYE or a ROZE. So just remember, controlling the amount of spell cards in your graveyard can be really easy. It's doable a lot of times with 2 spells in your graveyard, as long as you're taking advantage of your chain links. So just remember that chain links resolve backwards, and then just think of ways to get your cards to the graveyard. And then specifically the wording where it says then is very important, which it happens to do on all the Sky Striker spells. So it just matters if you have 3 or more spells in resolution of the chain. So just place the chains on like a puzzle and solve them in a way where you would happen to have 3 spells in your graveyard, so you can maximize the secondary effects of your Sky Striker cards. So that's about all I had for this video. If you guys have any other Sky Striker tips, definitely let me know. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.